So everybody who's here, thanks so much. Welcome to the Million Dollar Case Study Session 9. So I'm filling in for Greg. Some of you might know me. I've been on here before. I'm Gen, and I'm from the marketing team at Jungle Scout. And today is a super special day because we have Joel Lentz from the Biz Dev team of Amazon. So today Joel is going to share some best practices and tips to level up your Amazon game, and I've already learned a lot just by speaking with him.
Yeah, I started Amazon last year in 2016, so relatively new to the company, but this place is growing and changing and adapting on a daily basis, really. And so there's a ton to learn here, and stuff that may have been relevant even a few weeks ago may have certain nuances to it. So obviously take everything here today with a grain of salt, knowing that it could change next week. But at the same time, I think there's some good kind of tips and tricks, and if nothing else, some good verbiage that everyone on the call can pick up on and at least do some further research on, or reach out to me after the webinar and deep dive it a little bit further. So basically, my background, I was in sales for about 8 years after I graduated from college. Worked at another Fortune 500 company for the last 5.5 years prior to Amazon. Got my master's in business from University of Washington, and just super excited to be here. Kind of entrepreneur at heart myself. Kind of dabbled with selling a little bit. It's kind of hard not to when you're in this environment as far as selling on Amazon goes, and that's definitely a passion of mine to kind of take that further as time progresses. So obviously my name is Joel Lentz. I'm in the business development, account management department here at Amazon. Just real quick, it's kind of a well-kept secret, what our group does here. All of the, the ways that sellers can get signed up for Amazon, it's meant to be self-service, just like it is for the customer who's purchasing on Amazon. At the same time, our role is to help bring on brand new sellers to the Amazon marketplace, really for two reasons. One is to ensure that we have a depth of products that are already listed on Amazon so that we don't run out of stock. One way we do that is we engage with manufacturers, wholesalers, as well as many resellers, just to make sure that we don't run out of stock. And then the second reason is really to make sure we have a breadth of product and that we're constantly trying to bring on new products to the marketplace. And that's where I kind of see potentially a lot of those of you on the phone kind of coming into play here, is that you may be a brand owner, you may be inventing something, you may be sourcing something from a different country that we've never had listed before. And so that's why I'm kind of excited to see where some of these discussions lead. First 8 or 9 slides here I'll kind of go through quickly. You guys don't need to be sold on the power of Amazon, but really the company's mission statement is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. We're all about the customer. It's our number one leadership principle. And so if you run into frustrations as a seller, it's probably because we're focused on the customer more than we're focused on you as a seller. So just keep that in mind. If you always keep the customer's viewpoint before yours as a seller, you're going to understand kind of the reasoning for a lot of the things we do here. What's our secret? I just said it. It's start with the customer and work backwards, and that's straight from Jeff Bezos, our CEO. As of last year, Amazon was the most trusted brand rated by both the Harris Poll as well as the Reputation Institute. We have worldwide over 300 million active customers. So active customer is somebody who's made a purchase in the last 30 days. And specific to the US market, over 183 million unique visitors per month, which you can see is a substantial amount more than the competition. I like to show this. This is kind of like a cocktail napkin version of how Jeff Bezos and the leadership team came up with what they call the flywheel. I like to put it up here just to show you that sellers have always been a huge part of the plan to grow the business. It hasn't always been just Amazon as the seller. of record, but actually bringing on third-party sellers like you guys to ensure that, again, that depth and breadth of selection is always there. So just so you know how important third-party sellers are, again, this is a year-old statistic, but 50% of the total units sold on Amazon were from third-party sellers, not from Amazon as the merchant of record, and that was last year, and that's growing. So one of the first things that basically today, to kind of give you an overview, let's kind of step back a second. I want to cover a few basic details and concepts like the buy box, which I'm going to share on the screen. But really my goal is to share with you guys kind of what the top 4 or 5 best practices are for having a successful launch and doing very well on Amazon. Some of them aren't very profound, but if you don't understand why they're so important, you might not take advantage of them from the get-go. So a few of those are going to be sponsored products, which is like our Google AdWords pay-per-click advertising campaign. I have 4 or 5 slides to go through on that. Another one, if you're a brand owner, if you're going to be bringing new content, new selection to the marketplace, it's going to be registering as a brand owner. Along with that, once you're a registered brand owner, you can apply for A+ content, and that means you can have additional pictures, additional verbiage on your listing page, so that customers who may not be as familiar with your product or your brand can get a more detailed view of what it's all about and how it's different from the competition. Thirdly, I'm going to explain in depth why FBA, or fulfillment by Amazon, is so important. And then there's a couple other items that I'll touch on as well. So what I wanted to kind of describe here, we refer to the buy box as this yellow button up in the right-hand corner that says add to cart. You're probably all familiar with that button. What you may not realize is when you click that add to cart button, or your customer clicks that add to cart button, there's a seller on the back end, whether that's Amazon or a third-party seller, that just made a sale. And the way that's determined is by an algorithm that looks at not only price, but customer reviews, order defect rate that the seller has. So you want to have a low order defect rate, which means you're shipping on time, you're shipping quality products, you're not getting customer complaints, and a few other factors it looks at as well. But the way to be eligible for the buy box, there's a couple ways. Number one is using FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. Once your product is in our warehouse, it qualifies for prime shipping, and that qualifies you for the buy box. Another way is to be a brand owner. If you're a brand owner and you're working with an account manager, I can actually apply for early buy box eligibility, which means you get added to that potentially rotating list of sellers who win the buy box from day one. So those are the 2 most important things, or 2 easiest ways to qualify for the buy box. Obviously, you have to have competitive pricing as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the lowest price. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there are other sellers on Amazon selling this piece of equipment, and some of them have lower prices. There's one listed there for $63.99. They may be in the buy box rotation, but they're not winning the buy box at this given moment in time. One of the reasons for that may be because they're charging shipping. That's going to be one of the primary kind of recommendations, is whether you're shipping from your warehouse or retail facility or your garage, or whether you have your product in FBA, you're not going to want to be charging for shipping, because so many customers are looking for that free shipping. Even if you have to roll the shipping into the price of your product, it's going to make more sales that way. So this is kind of a screenshot of that on that bottom right-hand corner in the last screen. If you were to click on, see what other sellers, see the other sellers that are selling this product. This isn't the exact same product, but this would be the screen that it would look like if you clicked on what other sellers are selling it. As you can see, these are all the sellers who are winning the buy box, and it's a rotation. So at any given moment, if you click on a product and hit add to cart, the top seller here, All About Office, might make that sale. The next time somebody clicks that product, GRT group might make that sale. You can see Amazon as the seller, the third one down there, they're not even the ones currently winning the buy box. So, we don't give our own inventory any preferential treatment. It goes through the same algorithm as every third party seller. So I'm going to jump into one of the keys to success here, which is sponsored products. And again, that's our pay-per-click advertising. If you've ever used Google AdWords and tried to do that pay-per-click marketing campaigns for products within Google or other marketplaces, this is our version of it. Basically, you're going to choose your own keywords, or you're also going to use a combination of Amazon suggested keywords. Excuse me, we call that automatic targeting, and that's going to be based on the keywords and the group, the general category that your product is listed under. Within your campaign that you set up, you're going to decide what your limits are, both your pay-per-click limit and your daily limits. When your campaign, or when you win a certain appearance on one of these detailed pages, depending on how much you've bid and where you've placed in the ranking of winning that advertisement, your ad could be placed on the top of the page, could be placed within kind of the middle of the listings that pull up on the front page, or it could be alongside the right side. If you notice, next time you do an Amazon search, a lot of customers don't even realize that there's ads on the screen that sellers have paid for because they're so relevant. And we've actually done tests with test groups of customers that are searching for certain products, and not only do they not realize that there's ads in the search results, they actually prefer having them there because they're so relevant. If your sponsored product listing pulls up, it basically just looks like your listing, and it just says sponsored product right under the title. If a customer clicks on that, you're going to pay for that click. We're also going to calculate, though, if that click turns into a sale, we're going to calculate your ACoS, or average cost of sale. And that's going to be something you can monitor on a daily or weekly basis. Take that data and figure out what the best keywords are. If there's certain keywords that you're getting a lot of clicks on but no sales, you can use that as a negative keyword and actually filter out if people are searching for that keyword, so that your sponsored product doesn't pull up on the page, so that you're not paying for a bunch of clicks that don't end up in sales. So the picture didn't pull up on here, but basically sponsored products is powerful because it enables you, as a potentially new brand or a new seller, to get your products pulled up on the front page. As you can see from the statistic, if only 30% of Amazon shoppers are clicking past the first page, that means 70% are either they found what they wanted on the first page, or they're typing in a new search because they didn't find it on that first page. So here's some of the reasons why you should do it. Discoverability, increased sales, relevance, program transparency, some pretty obvious things there, but these are some things that cause your product or your brand to build momentum. And there's an exponential effect from this. Once you make a sale and you get a good review, that gets factored into buy box eligibility, which is important. One of the little known facts, which we'll get to here in some of the fact or fiction items, is that your sponsored products campaigns don't actually go live. They're not viewable until you're winning the buy box. So it's super important. That's why I explained the buy box up front, that you either have your products in FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, or you're a brand owner and you qualify for it up front. So these are some of the optimization tips. There's really, I can kind of help on the surface level initially with getting some of these things set up. We can set up the automatic campaign for you guys when you launch as a new seller. But a lot of it's just really, it's kind of trial and error. You've got to pay attention to what's working and what's not, and make some adjustments and create some manual campaigns. We do have a group, though, that is called a optimization, sponsored products optimization group, that you can sign up for. Basically, it's an 8-week commitment with at least $25 per day. So it's a $1,500 commitment over 2 months. But they're basically looking at your account every day and creating new campaigns, which they then email to you and you activate. And basically their goal is to get your ACoS, or your average cost of sale, down as close to 10% as possible. So basically they want the amount of money that you're paying in sponsored products to come out to 10% of what your revenue is, which is actually pretty low. Most sellers, when they set these up on their own, they're between kind of the 20 to 40% range. So they're actually paying 20 to 40% of the average cost in order to make a sale, which is that's pretty high. So obviously the goal is to spend less and make more.
Hey Joel, is there a resource, or do you have some guide to just get a rule of thumb of what a cost per click might be for a given category or subcategory?
So when you set up a campaign based on the keywords in the category, it actually tells you within Seller Central, within your portal, exactly what the average winning cost per click is. So you can click match the winning bid, basically, or you can actually set it up to outbid the average winning bid within your campaign. So I mean, on the automatic campaigns that we set up, usually they're set up for 5 to 10 cents per click with a $5 day maximum per campaign, and there's usually 1 to 3 automated campaigns. So it's basically up to $15 a day. And when you sign up, through a link that I can send you to be your account manager, we actually give you $50 up front to kind of experiment with. So that usually lasts 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how successful the campaigns are. But
sure. And while we're on the topic, can you just tell us again the name of that service? That's a $1,500 commitment, and how people can learn more.
Yeah, sponsored products optimization. I will note here that there's some requirements for it, so I'll just go through. This is what it is. It's an 8-week SP stands for Sponsored Product Optimization Support. It's for sellers that my team have onboarded, or the SSR stands for Self-Service Registration. If you've registered on your own already, you may qualify for it if you're a top seller, but it's a pretty high bar. I believe it's about average $10 million per year, or you're on track to sell $10 million per year to qualify for it. So it really is kind of an exclusive program that you can only apply for if you have an account manager like myself. So here's some of the requirements. The direct sales seller, that's basically somebody that I onboard within 2017. You have to agree to the minimum of 8 weeks, agree to $25 a day. Usually the goal is that 10% average cost of sale, like I mentioned. And also, once you get the email from the team who's doing these optimization studies, you need to implement those changes within 48 hours. Because that allows them to study those changes and iterate as necessary. Here's some fact or fiction items regarding sponsored products. So real quick, since I can't hear you, I'll guess for you. Sponsored products ads only show when you're winning the buy box. I already told you guys that one. The answer is true. It's a fact. Attributed sales show up same day in your campaign manager. So what that's saying there is that your average cost of sale is up to date, like minute by minute, which is not true. It does take up to 24 hours for sales to be attributed to the cost of click-throughs. Sponsored products only for brand owners. Not true. Sponsored products can be set up and used by anyone. Don't have to have an account manager. You don't have to be a brand owner. It can be any seller.
However, does that mean you would be paying for clicks to a listing, yet you wouldn't have the buy box, so you would be helping somebody else sell a product?
No, if you've got it, so it's a good question. If you've got a sponsored products campaign set up and you've got money that you're ready and willing to spend, it's actually not going to take effect, and you're not even going to be bidding against other sellers for those keywords unless you've already won the buy box for that product or brand that you're bidding on.
Nice.
So yeah, it won't go into effect until you've got the buy box.
Okay, and so if getting the buy box is also part of a rotation, is there any correlation between your PPC spend and getting the buy box? Like, are you more likely to get the buy box if you're spending more ad dollars?
Yeah, once you've earned the buy box, yeah, it does. They do feed on each other. So once you've earned the buy box and you've got sponsored product campaigns going, you're more likely to win the buy box a higher percentage of the time. I'll say, as a brand owner, if you're bringing a brand new product to the market and nobody's ever listed it on Amazon, as long as you go through the brand registry, which enables me to get you early buy box eligibility, you're going to win the buy box 100% of the time because you're the only one selling that product. That's the positive side of it. The negative side is consumers might not be searching for your product. So that's where the sponsored products become so important, because you can plug it, you can bid on competitors' brand names, you can bid on certain category types, you can bid on certain keywords that are going to be relevant for your product to pull up on that front page. And that's where having already won the buy box is a huge benefit as a brand owner, because then your sponsored products become effective immediately. All right, so just a real quick kind of from a high level, when you list a product on Amazon, it's going to ask for the condition type. Majority of items are going to be new. If you're like me, probably the only thing that you've ever purchased that wasn't new off of Amazon was a book. So it's a little known fact that if it is in a like new or used or refurbished condition, you cannot use sponsored products for those items. Sponsored products is only applicable to new items. All right, so a little transition here. As I mentioned, and as most of you are probably aware, you've got some different options for how to get your product from wherever it's located to the customer who's purchased it. We refer to MFN as Merchant Fulfilled Network, and that's where you're shipping from your warehouse, your retail facility, your manufacturing plant, wherever it may be, you're shipping direct to the consumer, and Amazon is not touching that product. That is not the best way to start out as a seller. The best way is to start with FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. And again, as I mentioned, FBA is important because when your products are in our warehouses, they qualify for that Prime badge. So if you're a Prime member, you know what that is. If you're not a Prime member, I'll explain real quick. The Prime badge is that little HTML logo that says Prime on a listing that indicates that that product you get free 2-day shipping if you purchase it. And we're able to offer that because of our discounted rates for shipping, as well as the fact that we charge customers $100 a year to be in the Prime, to be a Prime member. So when you, as a third-party seller, send your product into us, you get the advantage of discounted shipping rates and the advantage of having us pick, pack, ship, and handle customer support, as well as returns and fraud protection on your behalf. And that all comes at a very minimal cost, which I can get into a little bit later. But I'll tell you, 60% of searches on Amazon today are done with a Prime filter on the search. That means if your product doesn't have a Prime badge on it, 60% of customers aren't going to see it because they're searching for products with that free 2-day shipping logo. So that's huge. You know, you cut out the majority of our marketplace if you don't have the Prime badge. Real quick, I'll touch on seller fulfilled Prime. It is something that you can qualify for as a seller if you meet the qualifications. Usually it takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to qualify for that. It's an extremely high bar that we've set to both earn the right to have a Prime badge on product that you're shipping and to keep that privilege and have that. So if it's something that, if it's a product that for whatever reason it doesn't make sense, maybe it's cost prohibitive or whatever to send in FBA, seller fulfilled Prime is there, but it takes some time to earn that privilege. This is kind of an overview page, but I'm going to go into depth a little bit more on a couple of these items. So really your keys to success as a seller are these 5 items. Number 1 is to use FBA because that's what qualifies you for the buy box. The last one listed here, which I spent a good majority of time on, is to utilize sponsored products, especially as a brand owner. Once you've earned the buy box, you've got to get exposure to your product by advertising so that you can get customer reviews. Those customer reviews, again, feed into winning the buy box a higher percentage of the time. Obviously, if somebody has a great experience with your product, they're going to tell other people about it. You know, they're going to send them a link and you're going to make more sales. A couple of things that's really going to be important for you guys in order to get that early buy box eligibility is if you're a brand owner, you have to register to be a brand owner. And for some of you, if you've already applied on Amazon to be a seller, you've already got an account, and that was within the last couple of weeks, you may have been frustrated because you weren't able to apply for brand registry. The reason for that is from April 10th through the end of April, the brand registry is closed. They're basically revamping the system. They're going to open it back up the first week of May so that you can self-register for brand ownership again. One of the big changes, though, and it's a huge loop or it's a huge hurdle to overcome if you haven't already done this, is that they're now going to require that you have a trademark on your brand. So you can't just send a picture in with the name on it, you know, a picture of your product and or packaging with your name on it, which was basically all it entailed before. Now you actually have to show that you have a trademark. So there's going to be a much higher bar to meet to prove that you're a brand owner from here on out. Once you are approved as a brand owner, that's where you're going to be, that's where, if you have an account manager like myself, I'm going to be able to apply for the early buy box eligibility, but then you're also going to want to go through and apply for enhanced brand content. And that's where you get additional pictures that you can put on your listings and additional verbiage that you can spell out, you know, why your product is so great. So really both of those things are you're able to do on your own through Seller Central, which is our portal that you'll have access to once you sign up. And then another thing to really consider, depending on, you know, whether you have downstream channels like other online marketplaces or other retail kind of brick and mortar shops that you're planning to sell in. If you don't have a network or a system like that set up, one thing to look at is called Amazon exclusives. It's basically really powerful because you can add video content. If you pay to be a part of Amazon exclusives, you can add video content to your listings. They will run additional advertisements on your behalf at no expense to you. They will also feature your product on the exclusives page, which is one of our most visited pages on Amazon. So it's really a way for folks who don't have brick and mortar set up, they don't have a downline distribution set up with, you know, retailers and distributors and things like that, to gain to basically go on Amazon exclusively. You can only one of the terms is you can only sell on your own website and on Amazon. for if you're a part of Amazon exclusives. But it really just it maximizes your exposure on our marketplace. And there's there's literally like 5 times more tools available to you if you're part of that exclusives program, as there is to those people who are not, or those sellers who are not a part of that. So the next page here, I'll get into some of the costs and what
Hey,
all
Joel,
this.
real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Can we just go back for 1 second regarding trademark? We do have some questions about that. So when you say trademark, does it mean it has to be a fully registered trademark, or does like a pending registration for the trademark suffice?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. It may be that if it's pending, that might be enough to prove that you're going through the process. I don't know that I'd even be able to find the answer, honestly, until the new program is rolled out in May. But yeah, something to look out for. Obviously, if you've got a trademark, this isn't going to impact you at all. But if you don't have one, it's definitely something to start looking into right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so what does it all cost? It's really easy to find this if you click on Become a Seller within Amazon. But if you haven't done that yet, or you weren't sure, they're confused on what the costs or what the differences are with an individual account versus a professional merchant account, I'm gonna dispel all the myths right here. So there's basically two ways to sign up for to be an Amazon third-party merchant, to sell on Amazon, or as we call it, to sell through Amazon, not to Amazon. You can sign up as an individual contributor or individual seller rather, and that means that you don't have a monthly fee. All you do is you pay whatever the revenue share percentage is. In addition to that, you pay $1 flat fee per item that you sell. So you compare that to a professional merchant account, which does cost $39.99 per month, so $40 per month. What it does is it provides access to an additional about 7 or 8 categories that you don't have access to as an individual seller. Also has some reporting tools. And then obviously, if you sign up with my help through a registration link that I send you, you get my account management support, which lasts through the calendar year. So obviously, if you're planning to do a high volume amount of business, i.e. 40 units or more per month, or if that's a goal of yours, it's a no-brainer to go with a professional merchant account. Just strictly from a number standpoint, you're going to save money by doing it that way. The Amazon revenue sharing, regardless of whether you're an individual seller or you're a professional merchant, it doesn't change. The revenue sharing percentage is the same, and it's dependent on the category that your product falls into. So just kind of give you a sample, I mean, the 6% range, it really only applies to the personal computer or PC category. Everything else is going to be between 8 to 15%. So consumer electronics is 8%. Cell phones, cell phone devices, cameras, they're all going to be 8% range. Things like office products or musical instruments are going to be at 15%. And just to clarify here too, you may have noticed all the categories that I just mentioned there are consumer electronics categories. That's the general category that I manage, but I sit on a floor with 150 account managers for every product category that there is. So it's not hard to find the link within Amazon that spells out exactly what percentage that you'd be paying for whatever category that your product would fall in. And if you do contact me after this, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction if your product does not fall in that consumer electronics category. As far as the services and solutions go, I mentioned FBA. The costs you're going to pay for FBA are so minimal. I hesitate to even mention that there's a cost. I mean, you basically get a 50 to 80% discount on shipping your product to us. And when we pick, pack, and ship it on your behalf, the fees are so minimal. It barely touches your bottom line. I'll just put it that way. For what you're getting, for the additional 60% exposure, for the additional Prime badge, and the additional freedom to not have to ship stuff every day yourself, the cost is so minimal. But we do have, if you look on, you can just Google FBA revenue calculator. I believe that's something you can pull up even if you don't already have an account. And you can plug in any product you want there and figure out exactly what the cost would be. Then I mentioned exclusives as well. That's the program where you're limited to only selling your product on your website and our website, but you get all the extra tools and exposure as well as video content and free advertising. That is an extra 5% added to whatever revenue sharing percentage you fall under. So if you're selling musical instruments and you're in that 15% range, and you decide you want to be part of exclusives, it's going to be an additional 5%. So the total would be 20%. And finally, there's no extra fees for using account managers like myself. I'm a non-commissioned salesperson directly employed by Amazon. All right, so my contact information here is at the bottom. I've left plenty of time for questions. Basically, you may be wondering, do I qualify? And I just want to spell out real clearly who it is that I'm looking to help and really work with for the calendar year. The first and foremost, I'm only allowed to work with new sellers. That's sellers who don't already have an account that's had a first buyable offer. So first buyable offer means you've put a product in your inventory and you've listed it as a live product. Even if you haven't made a sale yet, if that product has gone live on the website and it's discoverable, I'm not allowed to work with you because you've already figured it out for yourself. So I am limited as well to working with about 80 to 100 sellers this year. And so it's kind of first come, first served basis. So probably most of the account managers here won't be able to accept any new sellers to help after probably the July to August timeframe. From then on out, we basically just help with account management, running deals and sponsored products and some of the other levers within the Amazon portal to make sure that the sellers that we've onboarded in the first half of the year are as successful as possible. So yeah, if you are interested, if you haven't already signed up for an account, definitely shoot me an email. Let me know what your question is, what your time frame is for getting started. I can point you in the right direction as far as the right account representative for the category that you're in. And the email there is the best way to reach me.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Joel. That was super helpful and interesting. A lot of these kind of like lesser known programs. So is there any recourse for people who are currently selling to get some kind of account management? Because we do have a fair number of people who are currently selling.
It's hard to say no, but there's really only one exception to the flat out no answer. If a seller is already on Amazon and they have access to refurbished or open box or out of stock items, there is kind of a loophole within the system where you can have a secondary account, which I could then help with the account management on if you qualify for what we call our certified refurbished program. It's an invitation only program. Again, it's a very high bar is set for the sellers that we let into that program. You'd have to have at least 400 units sold in the last 90 days and be able to show that you've got at least $50,000 in inventory of certified refurbished or grade A refurbished products. So there's very few sellers that qualify for that, especially if you're a brand owner and you're just looking to kind of start out and build your brand. So there's really, if you've already signed up for an account, and already listed a product, there's really not much further I can help you with. I mean, I really can't even answer emails if you're in that category, just because I'm strictly measured on brand new accounts that I help onboard to the marketplace.
Sure, makes sense. Now, how about people who might want to circumvent kind of like the back and forth with Amazon support, not quite getting the answers they want, or maybe a listing is made inactive? Do you have any workarounds or hacks to expedite that process?
You know, it may not be the most profound thing, but also it might not be the most intuitive thing. If somebody has a merchant account already, so they've got access to Seller Central, which is our internal portal, really the best way, I would say 80 to 90% of your issues or your questions can be found if you use that search bar, the search button in the top right-hand corner of your Seller Central account. It's very self-service oriented. If you have a question about any of the terms that I spoke about today, you're going to be able to find a video or 2 or 3 videos and a PDF and a couple other resources to help you kind of deep dive. How do I do this, or where do I apply, or what's a best practice for this? It's all in Seller Central. So, I'll be the first to admit our seller support department isn't always super responsive. I mean, that's a pain point that we've had as we grow and scale our business, and obviously have millions of sellers that are selling to hundreds of millions of people. But I would say, majority of the issues and problems that you're trying to solve or questions that you have, you're going to find them faster if you're willing to just put in that 30 to 60 minutes of like determined effort within Seller Central, and dig for what you're looking for. You're going to find the answer. And it's probably going to be a better answer or a more satisfying answer than what you'd get from seller support. It's definitely going to be quicker.
Sure. So we have heard in the chat that something exists, even if it does cost you to get a helper within Amazon to aid your problems. But from what I'm hearing from you, it doesn't exist, and it's really kind of like a Seller Central support issue.
Yeah.
All right. So can you also clarify as well regarding the brand registry? I think you said this, and I just want to confirm from you. If you already had your brand registered, you do not need to get it trademarked or grandfathered in.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. If you've already got your brand registered, prior to April 10th, you're grandfathered in.
Okay, great. So yeah, just a note to those people who are maybe having issues with Amazon or getting a product delisted or any variety of things. We do have the Amazon FBA Competitive Edge, our Facebook group. It is super active and a bunch of collaborative and supportive sellers. So you can pop your question in there. Might short circuit some of the time you might spend digging through the forums and threads. So just go to Facebook, Amazon FBA Competitive Edge. It is a private group, so we'll approve you, and that might help. Any word that you can share as far as Amazon opening additional distribution centers?
Yeah, so one thing I didn't really get into details on for FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, is that when you set up your first FBA shipment, or any FBA shipment for that matter, you're not going to know where that is going until you get to the very end of the shipment setup. So I'll say, first of all, it could be anywhere from 1 fulfillment center that you're required to send your products to up to 3 fulfillment centers. And what it's going to depend on is partly how your product is packaged. So if you've got a bunch of individual packaged items all put in one box, you're more likely to only have to send those to one location. Whereas if you've got 60 products and they're in 3 different boxes, you're probably going to have to send them to 3 different locations. It's pretty rare that you are fortunate enough to mail your FBA shipment to the closest fulfillment center to you. Really, the fulfillment centers have almost nothing to do. The locations of them have nothing to do where you're going to end up having to ship your product. Again, it's based on an algorithm that's going to determine, based on both the quantity of what you're sending in as well as the category that you're sending in and where it's most likely to be sold in the country. It's going to be determined by that. And usually, I would say the majority of the time, even let's say you send 20 items to one fulfillment center, as soon as those get received in, only 10 of them might stay there, and then they're going to reroute the other 10 to 2 or 3 other facilities. So I don't know if that answers the question. I don't have insight as to where the fulfillment centers are going up, but I think maybe the root of the question was, is there going to be one built near me so I don't have to ship my stuff as far? And it really has no, even if they built one in your backyard, they might ask you to send it to the opposite end of the country.
Sure. Thanks. So here's a question, and I have seen this numerous times. Interested to hear your take. So if it's a lot of our audience are private label sellers, so there should only be one seller on the listing. However, they might not have the buy box. Any best practices or solutions to address this?
So the scenario is they're the only ones with the product, but they don't have the buy box yet?
Yeah, correct. I guess some might call it like a listing being hijacked.
So there's other sellers selling the same product that are winning the buy box?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very scenario specific, but if it looks like it is a fraudulent seller that is hijacking that listing, the best thing to do is do a test buy from that seller and verify whether it's an authentic product or not. If you do a test buy and you report an inauthentic product to Amazon, especially if you're brand registered, that's going to get looked at immediately. If you're the registered brand owner, even if you're not the registered brand owner, I would say that's the fastest way to fix fraud is to do a test buy. But the test buy, I mean, obviously that doesn't happen overnight. You've got to wait for them to ship it to you, and then most of the time you've got to ship that into Amazon to prove that it's a fraudulent product. Another way is just to see if there's any illegal listing features on that fraudulent listing, such as one of the things that's a big no-no is redirecting. So if the listing, one of the bullet points or somewhere in the listing says, if you need more info or for specific shipping information, please contact, XYZ at, sellers aren't allowed to redirect to other websites or email addresses or phone numbers within the listing. So if you can see that, you can report a listing right on the listing. I mean, there should be a spot within every listing where you can report inaccurate or inauthentic information within a listing.
Sure. So we have time for just a few more questions before we wrap up. But I think the program that somebody was referring to earlier, Sally, as the Inside Management Program is a strategic account management program. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so strategic account managers, generally, again, don't quote me on this because this may have changed since last year, but strategic account managers are assigned generally to accounts that are selling between 20 to 30 million a year. So again, that is one way for a seller to get an account representative if they didn't have one when they initially signed up, but you're going to need to show that you're selling that type of volume. Basically 1 to 1.5 million a month might qualify you for that, for having an inside account manager like that. I would say if you don't already have an account, or you've signed up for an account but you haven't listed yet, feel free to email me and I'll help you I'll point you in the right direction. And if if you think you need the additional support, I'd be happy to help. Otherwise, I would encourage everybody to really be proactive about figuring out and solving for things that you've either heard about or you want to learn more about. If you can't find it on Seller Central, like Gen said, there's probably a Facebook page or a support website or even a forum within Jungle Scout that has the answer. So don't call Amazon seller support and expect as good a customer service as you would if you're a customer buying a product. That's my final advice.
Sure. Thanks so much. That was fantastic, Joel. Really appreciate it. And everybody who's joined as well. That concludes session 9 of the $1 Million Case Study. So thanks for being here. Next week, we will have a lawyer. So we've had a lawyer before, but this is going to be a different type of lawyer to focus on legal structure and taxes. So it'll be real important as far as like covering the topics of what type of company formation you want, what taxes you're liable for, a whole bunch of other stuff. We did see a preview of what he was talking about, and it will be really helpful. So we will send reminders for that. Until then, email us any questions you have, support@junglescout.com. Really appreciate you guys being here, and can't wait to see you guys next week. Bye.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Joel.